Job of marketing is to create desires in us where perhaps they were not before. I feel like a lot of advertising I ignore, but I'll never forget there was an evening where I was watching TV and a uh, fast food commercial came on, and the way they portrayed that cheeseburger, I mean, I hadn't been hungry before, but man, I wanted a cheeseburger after watching that commercial. And so apparently it was quite effective from their standpoint, at least for me and for people like me. Um, Desires are part of being human, and they lead us to some very good things, right? They lead us to relationship. They lead us to provide for our families and to put food on the table and so on and so forth. Um, but we also know that our desires can get us into trouble. The last commandment, as the Ten Commandments are traditionally listed, is "You shall not covet." And to covet seems to be to have a nurtured desire, kind of a focused desire for something that is inappropriate for you. Uh, Specifically in the commandment, it says, "Do not covet your neighbor's wife or your neighbor's house or your neighbor's belongings," and so on and so forth. Those belong to your neighbor. They are off limits for you. And this takes shape in all kinds of different ways, certainly with regard to lust, certainly with regard to power. Sometimes somebody has influence, and we would like the influence they have. We would like the power that they have. Um, and gluttony, envy, jealousy, and so on. It's all rooted back in desire. And so it's interesting that at the end of the Ten Commandments, after laying out some really kind of action-oriented prohibitions, the last one has to do with the heart. The last one has to do with your desires. And so as people who follow Jesus, as people who understand ourselves to be the people of God, one of the greatest spiritual practices you can do is to track your desires. What is it that you want? And what kind of um, actions are your desires driving you towards? You shall not covet. Covet. Underneath all of that is perhaps the concept of contentment. It's not bad to want things. And to work for things and to plan and to build towards things in healthy sorts of ways. But in the midst of what you're planning for and what you're striving for, all of which is fine, to nurture a contentment that God will provide what is needed, that I am in His hands, and to honor the people around me, to give dignity to the people around me enough to keep my desires out of their stuff and on what the Lord has put before me. May we be people whose desires are grow out of the soil of a holy contentment. Grace and peace, my friends.